Hey everyone, it's Matt from NEEWER, and today we're going to be looking at the Q4 Flash that just came out. This has a lot of versatility, a lot of functionality, and I'm really excited to show it to you. So let's break it down. So when most people think of flash photography, they're usually thinking of kind of one of two lanes of equipment. The first would be something like this. This is the Z1 from NEEWER. This is what's called a Speedlite. So Speedlights are great because they're super portable. You can take this thing anywhere. You can drop it right in your bag, but you are sacrificing on power and you don't have as many options with the ways you can control your light. So that's where the other type of light comes in, which is a studio monolight. So that's what I've got right here. This is the S101 400 Pro from NEEWER, and this guy's got a lot of power. It has a Bowens mount in the front, so we can attach all sorts of attachments to the front, but it can't leave the studio. So you've got ultra portable and then not portable at all, and that's where something like this would come in. This is the new Q4 from NEEWER. And I am really digging this light. Look at the design of this thing. There's nothing quite like it. And this has the power of a monolight, but it has a lithium battery inside of it that you can charge up and you can leave the studio. So that's a very cool idea to have all this performance in something that can go on location. So we're gonna go from the front to the back here and kind of talk about what it does. And let's start with our mount in the front. All right, so starting at the front of our light, we have, sort of the most obvious thing is right here. It's going to be this reflector hood. The reflector hood is being mounted by the Bowens mount. The Bowens mount is this three-pronged mount around the outside of the light, and this is the release switch over here. And a Bowens mount is a universal style of mount. So you can attach all sorts of different accessories onto the front of this light. Softboxes, lantern softboxes, snoots, different hoods. The light comes with this reflector hood. It's kind of got a frosted interior, which I like. It actually softens the light just a hair, but you can also get polished reflector hoods if you want, harsher light. Lots of different versatility there with your Bowens. You can see the lamp is right there in the center. And something else that's kind of fun about this light is it doesn't have a separate modeling bulb. So some of these lights actually have another bulb that you screw in that controls your modeling light. The modeling light on this unit is actually built into the light itself. So if I turn this on and I turn my modeling light on, there you can see the modeling light is actually underneath the bulb. So it's part of the unit itself. You also have the ability on this light to actually control the intensity of your modeling light. So you can see here, I'm going to be brightening that up, and I can also turn my dial and dial it way down. So that's actually kind of a novel thing. A lot of times modeling lights are just kind of on-off. This gives you a little bit more nuance with how you can control your modeling light. The other things to talk about on the exterior, obviously you've got this cool little handle on the top, makes it a real breeze to get in and out of a case. It's great if you're on location for moving around. You can see over here I've got my battery, so let's just look at it really quick. The battery has a little charging port right on the front. It's also got indicator lights to show you how much of your battery charge is in there. So we'll put that back in. The back operations, we'll go over some of this here in a second. Spinning around to this side, we have two little ports. One is a USB port. The USB port is for firmware updates, and the other port next to it is for a sync cable. So if you wanted to go old school and plug a sync cable into the light, you've totally got that option. My preferred method of controlling the light is with something like this. This is a little Q Pro trigger. So this guy actually just lets you, dial your settings directly into this and then control the light remotely. My sort of preferred way to shoot with this thing. Coming around to the bottom, we've got a mounting plate. Now that's just got a little screw mount, but this actually has a handle mount that makes it a breeze to put onto a light stand. We'll talk about this in a minute. All right, so that I think is kind of covers the outside of everything. I'm gonna put my reflector back on. And now let's take a quick look at the back and we'll talk about some of the settings for the flash. All right, so let's turn this guy around and talk about some of the settings that we have for this. So the first thing I'm going to talk about, which I think is kind of fun, just pushing the power button does not turn the unit on. You have to push the button and then rotate the dial. And that little locking failsafe, I think could save you a lot of pain. If this button gets accidentally pushed in a bag, you would hate to show up on location and find a dead battery in your flash because it's been on the whole time. This little rotation of the dial just saves you from that worry. I really like that. Looking into the settings, we've got some pretty standard stuff. If we go through our mode settings, we've got a manual mode. Manual mode is going to be pretty familiar to photographers that use light meters. So this is, you could dial in the exact, like power setting you want, and then, use your meter to get your exposure right where you want it. We did a low-key lighting and a high-key lighting video on here where we used that metering technique, if anyone's curious. The thing that I like about this light, I can mention really quick, is that it has a lot of increments between its power settings. So a lot of flashes will go by thirds or something. So you'd be at full power, and then you would go a third down, a third down, a third down, and now you're at half power. The nice thing about this light is it's intense. So you can really, really dial in that exposure. You can just nail it exactly where you want it. That's the manual mode. You've also got a TTL mode. That's pretty familiar, I think, to a lot of people that are using these flashes. That's letting the camera and the light determine, the exposure, using the metering of the camera to determine the exposure. The nice thing about this is you've got TTL compensation. So if you're looking at it and it looks a little hot or looks a little dark, you can dial that up a stop, down a stop, and really dial that into exactly where you want it. Multi-flash mode, it's got that as well, flipping through the modes, so you can use that. It also has a high-speed sync. So this is kind of a wild thing. This light, I believe, will sync all the way up to like an 8,000th of a second. So just incredibly fast, exposures. We've got wireless settings. So if you want to use a Q Pro trigger, I highly recommend this. This has a little hot shoe mount on the bottom, and then this can click right onto your camera, and you can use this to wirelessly control your light. And this will control multiple lights too. So if you had a few of these set up, key light, side light, fill light, then this combo, works really well. You've got channel settings, group settings, again, for your wireless devices. And also you have a modeling light. We looked at that a minute ago. And really very simple operations, very robust light, but I don't find it very cumbersome to use at all. So the other thing that I'll mention really quick is the refresh rate on this thing is crazy fast. So very rarely will I use full power on a flash. It's so much light. But normally when you're doing the full power, it's a good way to kind of test the refresh of a light. Sometimes it takes a long time for full power to charge back up. This guy happens quick. Watch, we'll do one, and then the next one. Boom, 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 like that. That's full power. If I come down to, let's say, quarter power, all right, here's quarter power, so we can watch the refresh on this. It's actually happening really, really, really fast. That's quarter power. If I went down, all the way to 256 or whatever, it would just be as fast as you could push your finger. The other things that this can do are, all the kind of functions that you would want a flash to do, like rear curtain syncing, front curtain syncing, all that fun stuff. The last thing I think I'll show you is some of the options we have with our mounting handle. So on the bottom of the light, we have a mounting plate, and the light comes with one of these handle grips that screws right into that plate. And it's got little registration pins, so that handle's not going to turn once it's on. Obviously, it's got a toggle right there, so you can tilt the light when it's on the stand. And speaking of the stand, it's got a little hole in the bottom there for your baby pin, for your light stand, so that'll go right up on top. The last thing I'll show you is this hole right here. Any of my studio photographers will probably be familiar with that. I'll show you really quick. That is where the umbrella goes. So if you're the type of shooter that uses umbrellas, this will accommodate you. You can shoot into them, shoot through them. And like I said before, it also has the Bowens mount. So a lot of different options on how to control that light. So I'd say that's pretty much it. So that covers our Q4. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.